solution.
Well, joining us now live from Jerusalem is Amotz Asa-El. He's political commentator and former executive editor of the Jerusalem Post. Thank you for being with us. We framed our introduction there very much in the context of the peace process, so-called, and yet I keep on reading reports from Israel saying that is not what's on the mind of the Israeli voters. Is that accurate?
That's true, Adam. The sense in Israel is that this election is, for the first time in nearly half a century, focusing on domestic issues.
And why is that? Because obviously the situation between Israel and its neighbors is potentially existential.
Well, the way the mainstream electorate here seems to be interpreting the reality that they've experienced over the past 2 decades. The Israeli voter has repeatedly brought to power governments that sought a massive historic agreement with the Palestinians. It began with Yitzhak Rabin, and then it proceeded from there to the refashioned Ariel Sharon, who offered the deal, and then Ehud Olmert, and in the interim Ehud Barak, each of whom was voted overwhelmingly by the mainstream Israeli voter in order to try and produce a deal, and the deal never happened, and in fact there was a great deal of violence. The voters' conclusion from all this was that peace will not arrive to Israel to produce this kind of deal.
But it seems to mean that more and more people in Israel are basically turning their back on the possibility of a two-state solution. You've got Mr. Bennett openly saying that it's unacceptable to him, that it's a question of Israeli expansion into the West Bank. Is that how the voters are seeing it as well?
No, I think Mr. Bennett, while he's being celebrated because he is expected to win a handsome following today, it should be borne in mind that whatever following he ends up commanding comes from within the right-wing bloc. He is not expected to obtain even one Knesset seat from the left. This is a redistribution within the right wing, so his views are really not the issue here. The issue is the mainstream voter, and the mainstream voter has shifted his focus, his and her focus, from foreign affairs to domestic affairs. And domestic affairs in recent years have been dramatic. There has been here a social upheaval surrounding all kinds of issues like prices of housing and food and education. And Netanyahu, over the past decade, has been economically dominant. He has heralded in Israel an economic transition on the scale of what Margaret Thatcher introduced in Britain in her time, and also in the same spirit. And this has been successful in many ways and disagreeable in other ways. And this has been the main bone of contention in this election. And this point was brought home by the Labour Party, of all parties. The same Labour Party that had for decades waved the flag of peace has this time folded it and instead waved the flag of social reform and of social spending. And with Labour taking this kind of stance, the entire election campaign on the part of all parties shifted from foreign affairs to domestic affairs, and this is what is on the mind of the Israeli voter right now.
Tell me about Mr. Netanyahu. First of all, I keep on reading he is definitely going to be elected today as Prime Minister, re-elected. Is that the case? And secondly, is he an Israeli Prime Minister to rank alongside some of the great leaders of the past?
Well, where to rank him among historic Israeli prime ministers will only be wise to do when he becomes history. He's not history, he's current events. And one can already say, however, that in terms of the mechanical number of years that he has already been in office and is now expected to continue to be in office, his is a very durable presence in Israeli history. But in terms of the quality of his presence, it's too early to judge. We can say that economically speaking, he's already left an indelible imprint, one that will surely be lasting. Maybe it will be changed in the future, and maybe the future will also judge it more negatively than it currently does. But that's one indelible imprint that he's left. On foreign affairs, it's very, very early to judge, and I wouldn't do that.
Mr. Asa-El, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Jerusalem.
2 people have died in a house fire in North London. The fire brigade has recently given an update of what happened.
We ended up with 6 fire engines.